channel. Today I am finally talking about the powder that everybody has been waiting for me to talk about. I really wanted to give this a good test before I come on here and started talking about it. And I have to be careful with powders because I am almost 40. I turned 40 in like 2 weeks. This is the Marc Jacobs Accomplice Powder. As you guys know, I have been so madly in love with this concealer. The concealer is just so good for me only because I don't set my under eyes. I've heard people say that this is not their favorite concealer to set. So if you like and prefer your under eyes to be set with some sort of powder, this might not be the right concealer for you. But if you're like me and you don't really like to set your under eye, this is a nice option. The thing that I like about this is it does have like a nice coverage on it. It's nice and full, but it's not overly thick, and you can go in with just a tiny bit of product. If you're older, I recommend going in with a little bit and kind of build, and a little bit and build, and use your finger. And maybe use a brush, something like this, that's just a little bit wispy to kind of blend it out. But less is more with this concealer. So I've been loving it. It's been one of my absolute favorites the entire month of April. I've just been loving that. My top favorite powder is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish, and I have this in shade 2. And this one has just been so, like, it literally blurs everything out. It blurs out your pores. It blurs out wrinkles. I don't like it under my eyes. Again, I don't really like anything under my eyes as far as powder goes, but it blurs everything out and just makes everything look so seamless. Now, there are some major differences between these two products, and I will get into that. I will also demonstrate how they look on the skin compared side by side to each other, because I do apply this on one side and this on the other, because these are, in my opinion, totally different products. So the price differences between the Marc Jacobs and the Charlotte Tilbury. The Marc Jacobs is $49 for 10 grams, which adds up to $4.90 per gram. The Charlotte Tilbury, on the other hand, it is $45 for 8 grams, which makes it to be $5.63 per gram. You get a little bit more product and a little bit more bang for your buck in the Marc Jacobs than you do the Charlotte Tilbury. The only thing that has been driving me crazy about this one is that it's not really the best travel friendly because it doesn't have a brush with it. So normally when I carry this around with me, I have to take a brush and stick it into my side pocket so the brush doesn't get all gross. You know how your purses are, I mean, come on. But this, on the other hand, Marc Jacobs did a great job. I'm sure you guys have seen this. So when you open it up, you have a nice sized mirror. Like, I do like how the mirror is full sized. That in itself makes it purse friendly because it's full sized, and in fact, I can see pretty much my entire face when I look into this mirror. You do have this little protector here. The top of this has this brush. And when I first seen this, I was like, oh my gosh, this brush is really cool. But I tried to put it back in, and I was having this happen where some of the brush hairs were kind of fraying. But then I realized that this opens up. So all you do, and this has a magnet. So this is a magnet, this is a magnet. You stick it on there and then you close it back up. It's so travel friendly. It's just genius. Like, they did a great job on this packaging, really thought it through, and I really appreciate that. Let's get into the product. So like I said, there are 4 shades. The first shade is number 50, and that is a illuminating light sand, which is best for fair and light skin tones. 52 Siren is a brightening soft peach, best for light medium skin tones. 54 Muse is warming soft tan, is best for medium to deep skin tones. And then 56 Scarlet is a bronzing golden cocoa, which is best for deep skin tones. Now, I actually chose shade number 52 Siren. Here's the thing about the shades. I really feel like the shades are a little bit off. And my MAC shade is an NW33 for references through the MAC. So I will leave a full list of all the foundations and the shades that I wear in the description box down below, just for your convenience. But the deal about this is that these, in my opinion, run a little bit dark. The last thing you guys want to do is add a dark finishing powder on your skin. If I would have chose based on their suggestion, that would have been 54 Muse, which is a warm, soft tan, which is best for medium to deep skin tones. Didn't want to go overly dark, and so I'm so glad that I chose a shade lighter. So this is the Marc Jacobs one, and this is the Charlotte Tilbury one. The Charlotte Tilbury one kind of blends into the skin. See how this one has a little bit of a peach undertone? Can you imagine if I would have went to the one that they suggested for me? I don't know that it would have worked. So just be aware of the shades, because I do feel like if you get this powder, the shades are going to kind of be an issue. I feel like if you're not careful, you're gonna buy the wrong shade in this. I think that's very easily done. So just be careful and be very cautious when you're buying the shades with this powder. If you're going to order this from Sephora, I recommend heading over to the Marc Jacobs website first. Also, if you've never purchased anything from the Marc Jacobs website, you can actually enter your email in and get 10% off. So just in case you missed the Sephora sale, you want to get this powder or the concealer, head over to their website, enter your email, and you can get the 10% off. They actually provided a chart on their website, and it's basically using the Shameless foundation and their Remarkable foundation. So they gave you a chart using those two foundations. Whatever shade you are in those two foundations, they give you the options in the concealer and the powder. I recommend thoroughly looking through those charts. Really look at the shades, look at their recommendation. Whenever you are in either one of those foundations, I currently do not know exactly what shade I am in any Marc Jacobs foundation, but if you do, that would be a nice way for you guys to determine what shade you're going to be, and it kind of gives you options. I think you're going to have to determine whether you really want it to be your skin tone or you want the powder to give you a little bit of a brightening effect. So, you know, you'll have to kind of determine what your preferences are, because I truly believe if you do not get the right shade in this, you will not like it. But the nice thing is, if you have not picked up the Accomplice Concealer yet, they also offer this for the Accomplice Concealer as well. So it's a nice chart to use, and I definitely recommend it. Let's get into what this powder is and what it's supposed to do. The description on this, it says it's a blurring touch-up powder in a chic compact with a built-in brush that sets, blurs, and reduces the look of shine, perfect for on the go. Totally chic, like a favorite accessory, Accomplice Instant Blurring Beauty Powder makes touch-up effortlessly glamorous. Sweep it on with the built-in brush to give a warm all-over glow. It contains just a hint of perfecting pearl pigment to diffuse light and filter away the look of imperfections. You have the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Finish, okay? This is a pretty mattifying finish powder. I would not use this powder as a setting powder. In my opinion, this is a finish powder. I would not use this as a setting powder. That's just my opinion. I do not feel like this would be a good powder to set with and finish with. If you are somebody that sets your makeup and also puts a finishing powder over top, I don't know that you're going to want to use this twice. I feel like it might be a little bit too thick or a little bit too cakey. I think you need to find either or. If you have another setting powder that you can set your makeup with, and then, you know, kind of go through and then use this as a finishing powder, I recommend it that way. I don't know that I would use it for setting and finishing. I just don't know that that would be the best way to go. And it's the same with the Charlotte Tilbury. I don't use this to set and finish. Like, this is my either or. Kind of the same thing with this. This is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Palette, and this kind of gives the skin kind of an all-over illuminating effect. The thing that makes this product so magical is the fact that it doesn't emphasize your texture, it doesn't emphasize pores, it doesn't emphasize wrinkles, it just lays over all of that, and it's very beautiful. So it's not like you're putting a highlighter all over your face. It kind of illuminates the skin and just gives that glow from within. It doesn't have any mattifying properties in it. This one is mattifying without any illuminating, okay? So here you have one that's completely mattifying without any illuminating, and you have this one that's completely illuminating without any mattifying. This one is in the middle. So this one has both. In my opinion, this one is a mattifying and an illuminating at the same time. So this isn't like overly mattifying and it's not overly illuminating. It's kind of in the middle. So if you used the Charlotte Tilbury and you felt like it was a little bit too mattifying, and when I say mattifying, you guys, I just mean that it has no sheen to it. This has a sheen. This just kind of blurs everything out, which makes this is a micro powder that literally blurs your pores. The best I've ever seen a powder do. But this one also blurs it out, but at the same time illuminates it. So as you'll see in the footage, on one side of the face, I'm applying the Charlotte Tilbury. Kind of smooths and mattifies everything out. Now, don't get me wrong, it's not a heavy mattifying. It's not like it's a mattifying foundation or anything like that. It just smooths and just kind of gives you just an overall smoothing effect, which my favorite thing to do is to use this as like a finishing powder and then put this over top of it. It's like the perfect combination. When you look at the Marc Jacobs side and you see me apply it, it goes on, smooths everything out, kind of gives you that blurred effect, but also gives you that illumination. So if you see the Charlotte Tilbury on the one side, you'll see where it's a little bit more on the mattified side. And then on the Marc Jacobs side, it's got just a little bit more of a sheen to it. And if you look really up close to that part of my cheek, you'll see where it's kind of got a shine to it that the Charlotte Tilbury doesn't. So in my opinion, it's going to be based on what you need. I think every skin type could wear this. They don't specifically say what skin type. I am dry normal. Right now I'm a little bit more on the normal side, but I will say I believe would be fine for dry skin. I don't feel like this is a really thick, kind of heavy powder. Now, there are some cons to this, and let me get into the cons. So the first time that I applied this, I got a little bit heavy-handed with it, especially right here around my mouth and like right here around my wrinkle. And I did have some creasing, which I was wearing a foundation that doesn't normally crease. So if you get a little bit carried away with this, it can get a little bit thick. This is such a micro powder. It's so finely milled that it's a little bit harder to get heavy-handed with this, because when you put it on, it will just kind of like melt into the skin, especially if you put some kind of like setting spray over top of it. So this one is a little bit harder to get heavy-handed with. This one you can get heavy-handed with, which is one reason why I do not recommend using it as a setting powder and a finishing powder combined. I feel like that's just going to be way too much. This is, in my opinion, best used as a finishing powder. Now you can use this for on the go. I don't really recommend this brush. I like this brush for on the go, but this isn't a brush that I would use to apply it on a daily basis, because the way that it's shaped, it does sweep over the face quite nicely, but the way that it's shaped, kind of, you can get too heavy-handed in one direct area because it's made that way. I've been going in with this brush. This is the Sonia G Face Pro, and I just kind of go down in there. I've got it right there, and I just kind of like sweep it like this and lightly sweep it over the face. Don't get too carried away with this, but go out this way. Don't come in and don't go down the face. That's my opinion. I made that mistake. Going down the face, I feel like it kind of attaches to wrinkles a little bit more than I wanted. So to avoid that, I just sweep it this way, sweep it this way, sweep it this way. The way that it's applying on the skin, it's kind of going out versus down. That's just been my experience with applying this powder. Now you can also use a brush like this, which is more of a wispier type brush. This is actually the Luxie 514. This is actually my favorite way to apply the Ambient lighting palette, where I kind of sweep it all through all three shades and kind of just go all over the face. But you can also do it with this powder and kind of go in and pick some up and then just kind of do this with it and kind of do circular motions. If you're going to use like a wispy brush, I recommend circular motions. If you're going to use something a little bit more densely packed, but because this is a natural haired brush, it really applies powder just beautifully. But if you're going to use a wispy brush, I recommend just doing a little bit of circular motions, kind of like this, just where you're kind of doing this with it. Kind of go in and just do this, and you'll have better luck and it won't get built up in wrinkles or anything. So that's just been my experience with this powder. I think it's a beautiful powder. I do feel like this has the potential to be a beautiful powder, but I feel like you have to use it right. I feel like you have to know exactly what the powder is, because I do feel like if you don't know what the powder is and you're expecting something different than what it is, you're not going to like it. And I also feel like if you get the wrong shade, you're not going to like it, because if you go too dark, you're going to look like you have bronzing on your face, because these are pigmented. But if you have the right shade, it's not going to darken your face. It's not going to add coverage. This does not add coverage. So that's the nice thing about this powder as well. If it's too dark, it will just make you look like you have too bronzy of a face, and it will look a little unnatural unless you only use it on the places that you would apply bronzer. So if you have a darker shade, maybe you get stuck with that darker shade, I would recommend just going over your bronzer with it, like going over like your contour areas, meaning, you know, forehead, up here, here, and maybe down the nose. Then you could totally get away with wearing it, but I would not put it all over the face, meaning up here. You're not gonna wanna come up like this with it over this pores area with a shade that's too dark. So that's it, you guys. I think it's a beautiful powder. I think Marc Jacobs did a great job with it, but I do feel like if you don't really know what the powder is, you might struggle with it. That's it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you guys again for all the love that you guys show me and my channel. It means the absolute world to me. And I will see you guys right back here tomorrow in my next video. And I love you all so much. Bye.